stop for a moment and imagine this. She sees you. She sees you moving on, not with anger, not with drama, not begging for her attention, but calm, completely calm, peaceful, smiling, living, laughing, thriving, and she realizes she has no control over you anymore. She watches, stunned, trying to process a truth she never expected, something she never prepared for. And in that moment, everything she thought she knew about power, about influence, about your connection shatters. You see, most people will never understand this. They chase revenge, they argue, they try to prove themselves, but the real power, the kind that leaves someone speechless, is not loud. It doesn't yell, it doesn't fight, it doesn't plead, it walks quietly, confidently, and leaves a mark that words could never describe. And when she witnesses that, she experiences something terrifying and humbling at the same time, the realization that she never had power over you. That your life, your happiness, your peace were never hers to control. And here's the truth nobody will tell you. When you move on peacefully, the emotions she feels aren't anger, they aren't jealousy, they are confusion, awe, regret, and even fear. Because she thought she could provoke you, manipulate you, or break you, but she sees you unshaken. And in that silence, that calm, that confidence, she feels it. She feels the power she can't reach, the freedom she can't take, and the life she can't control. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to harness this force, how to live in such peace and strength that no one can ever shake you again. And when she watches, she'll never forget it. You know, most people never understand the true power of moving on peacefully. They think strength is loud. They think strength is proving a point, showing anger, creating chaos, demanding attention. But real strength, the kind that shakes someone to their core without them even realizing why, is quiet. It's subtle. It's calm. It's the unshakable peace that comes from knowing who you are, what you deserve, and refusing to let anyone, no matter who they were in your life, dictate your emotional state. When a woman sees a man she once thought she controlled or could affect, standing tall, composed, and undisturbed, it's more than just a shock. It's an awakening, and not for you, for her. Think about it. She watched you struggle, she watched you react. She probably believed that your life revolved around her presence, her validation, her attention. She believed that she had some kind of emotional leverage, some invisible hold over your happiness. And then one day, without drama, without confrontation, without any grand gesture, she sees you living. Not pretending, not faking it. Truly living, calmly smiling, laughing freely, walking through your days with a quiet confidence that doesn't seek her approval. That is a shock she never anticipated. It's a jolt because it challenges every assumption she had about you, about your connection, and about her power. This isn't about revenge. It isn't about proving her wrong. It's about reclaiming yourself. The truth is, peace is a language that cuts deeper than any argument, any insult, or any display of anger. When you move on peacefully, you're telling a story without words. You're saying, I am not defined by your presence or your absence. I am whole, I am enough, and nothing you do or say can take that away from me. And when she sees this, she experiences something that most people never witness. The quiet but undeniable strength of a person who has chosen their own happiness over validation from anyone else. There's a psychological effect here that is often overlooked. People, especially those who try to control others, are used to reactions. They are used to chaos. They thrive on emotional responses because it reinforces the illusion that they have power. But when you refuse to react, when you refuse to fight back, when you refuse to let anger or resentment dictate your energy, you disrupt their entire framework. Suddenly, the world she thought she knew, the influence she believed she held, becomes meaningless. Your peace doesn't just affect you, It radiates outward and forces her to confront a reality she isn't prepared to face, that you are untouchable, unshaken, and free from her control. Philosophically, this is where true power lies. Most people equate strength with dominance, with conflict, with showing the world they are right. But real strength is serenity. It is the ability to carry yourself with dignity, even when others expect you to break. It is the knowledge that your energy, your time, your life are too valuable to waste on proving anything to someone who never had the right to define your worth. And when a woman sees this in you, she doesn't see it coming. She didn't prepare for it. She didn't imagine that calm, quiet confidence could be more devastating than anger or confrontation. And in that unanticipated moment, when she witnesses your peace, she feels it, the realization that she never truly had power over you, and that what she thought she could control was never hers to control at all. And here's the deeper truth: the shock she experiences is temporary, but the impact on you is permanent. Because in choosing peace, in choosing to walk away from chaos without bitterness, you've done something most people never do. You've reclaimed yourself. You've defined your own story. You've turned what could have been a battlefield into a sanctuary of strength. And that is a lesson she will never forget, even if she tries to erase it from her memory. So, the next time you feel the urge to react, to prove, to argue, remember this: your greatest power is not in confrontation. Your greatest power is in moving forward peacefully, calmly, confidently. Because when you do, you don't just shock others, you awaken yourself. And that awakening, that clarity, that serenity, that unshakable strength is a force that no one, not even the people who once thought they controlled you, can ever take away. Move on peacefully and watch the world and those who underestimated you tremble, not because you fought them, but because you no longer need to. Peace is your ultimate statement. After she experiences the initial shock of seeing you move on peacefully, something even more profound begins to stir inside her: confusion. This confusion is not trivial. It is disorienting, unsettling, and often entirely unexpected. She is used to reactions. She is used to chaos. She is used to drama. She is used to seeing the world bend to the emotional storms she creates. But when she sees you unshaken, unbothered, genuinely content, it doesn't fit into the pattern she knows. It doesn't match the narrative she has constructed about you, about your connection, and about her own influence. And that confusion, quiet but relentless, is far more powerful than anger, far more penetrating than jealousy. Imagine the mental struggle she undergoes. Her mind races, trying to make sense of what she is seeing. Why is he smiling? Why isn't he reacting? Why does he seem free? Every question she asks herself chips away at the illusions she once held, the belief that she could define your emotions, manipulate your energy, or maintain some invisible hold over you. Her confusion is her mind colliding with a reality she cannot control. And in that collision, something extraordinary happens. She begins to realize, perhaps for the first time, that your happiness was never hers to give or take. This moment of confusion is deeply psychological. Humans are conditioned to expect reactions. When someone once significant in our lives acts contrary to that expectation, it creates cognitive dissonance, a mental tension caused by holding two conflicting truths. She believed she had power, she sees that she doesn't. She thought she could provoke, and yet nothing happens. Her expectations are shattered, and the dissonance is uncomfortable, even painful. This is why peace is so disarming. Chaos would have been predictable. Anger would have been manageable. But serenity, calm strength, and quiet confidence, that is something no one can prepare for. That is something that forces reflection, even if she resists it. Philosophically, this confusion is fascinating. It forces a confrontation with reality. It forces her to examine her own behavior, her own choices, and the assumptions she made about your connection. She begins to see that perhaps the attachment she believed was mutual, perhaps the control she believed she wielded, was never real. She is confronted with the truth that what she thought defined your life, your energy, and your emotions never did. And that truth, once seen, is disorienting. It creates a vacuum where expectation once lived, a silent space where she can no longer anticipate your reactions, a place she must face the consequences of her own underestimation. There is also a subtle, emotional intensity that accompanies this confusion. She might feel regret, a pang of loss she did not expect. She might feel fear, the recognition that the man she underestimated is now operating from a place she cannot touch. She might feel awe, the sudden awareness of your inner strength, your resilience, your ability to continue growing even after everything she tried to disrupt. And all of these emotions mix together in a way that is both chaotic and illuminating, a storm contained within her mind, while outside you remain calm, composed, untouchable. What is essential to understand here is that her confusion is a reflection of your growth. Every second you spend living freely, every day you choose your peace over reaction, is a reminder of the power she cannot influence. And in that reminder, she confronts an uncomfortable truth that her past actions, her attempts to control, her expectations, all of it, are meaningless against the life you are intentionally creating. She cannot argue with it, she cannot manipulate it, and she cannot reclaim it. It exists outside her influence, and that is the point. This confusion is not something to exploit, nor is it a tool for manipulation. It is the natural consequence of walking away from chaos without losing your calm, of reclaiming your emotional sovereignty. It is the silent echo of your strength reverberating in someone else's consciousness, a shock wave that only grows in intensity the longer you remain steadfast in your peace. So, when you move forward, when you continue to grow, when you smile, laugh, and live without resentment, remember this: the confusion she experiences is proof that you have broken the patterns of expectation, that you have redefined the rules, and that your life is no longer subject to anyone else's perception. And in that quiet, invisible victory lies a profound truth. Peace and growth are far more disarming than any confrontation, far more powerful than any argument, and far more transformative than any attempt to prove yourself. Live in your peace, embrace your strength, and let the confusion you create in others be a reflection of the unshakable life you are building. Because when she realizes she cannot predict you, cannot influence you, and cannot contain you, she is forced to see one undeniable fact: you are free, and freedom, that is the ultimate power. There is a moment, often quiet and unnoticed by the world, when you realize that peace is not merely the absence of conflict. It is a form of power unlike anything else. Most people mistake power for control, for force, for dominance. They believe that to be strong, you must push, pull, argue, or prove your point. They believe that strength is loud, visible, and reactive. But true power, real, transformative power, is found in serenity. It is found in calm confidence, in walking forward with clarity while others around you expect chaos. And when a woman sees this in you, it changes everything. She begins to understand that the life you lead, the energy you carry, the joy you embrace is not dictated by her. That realization is disarming. It is unsettling. It is the kind of shock that leaves an impression far deeper than any argument ever could. Your peace becomes power the moment you stop seeking validation. When you choose not to react, when you choose not to explain, when you refuse to let someone else's actions dictate your energy, you are no longer part of their narrative. You are writing your own. And there is a profound psychological effect in this, one that cannot be overstated. People are conditioned to expect responses. They expect emotional fluctuations. They expect instability. They expect reactions. When they encounter someone who operates outside of that expectation, someone who is untouchable in their calm, it creates a dissonance that is both humbling and shocking. She sees a man she thought she could affect, a man she thought she could influence, and realizes he is operating on a plane she cannot reach. That is the essence of power, the ability to remain sovereign over your own mind, emotions, and life regardless of what others do. Philosophically, this is where the strength of peace intersects with the wisdom of self-mastery. Most people spend their lives in pursuit of control over others, in attempts to manipulate, coerce, or demand reactions. They measure their success by the chaos they create or the responses they provoke. But power, real power, is invisible. It is internal. It is cultivated silently through discipline, reflection, and choice. Every moment you spend in calm reflection, every decision you make rooted in clarity rather than reaction, strengthens this internal authority. And when it manifests outwardly, when she witnesses it, it has a magnetic, undeniable force. This is why peace can be more devastating than anger. Anger is loud, reactive, and predictable. It can be countered, challenged, or mirrored. Peace, however, is impenetrable. It is not a weapon in the traditional sense, but it is more effective than any weapon could ever be. When you move forward with calm strength, she sees that the chaos she expected, the storm she hoped to provoke, never arrives. There is no opportunity for manipulation, no leverage to exploit, no argument that can unsettle you. And in that absence, your power becomes visible. Not because you are trying to show it, but because it is inherent in the way you live. There is also a subtle yet profound emotional effect. When a woman sees that her presence or absence does not determine your value, she experiences a mix of awe, confusion, and realization. She is confronted with the undeniable truth that your life is yours alone. Your happiness is not a commodity to be won, traded, or lost. Your confidence is not a product of her opinion. And your peace, the calm that radiates from you, is the ultimate assertion of your independence. It tells her, without a single word, that you are untouchable in your sense of self. Power rooted in peace also shifts the dynamic of respect. People, especially those who have underestimated you, cannot ignore the serenity of a person who has mastered themselves. Respect is not demanded, it is earned silently, through action, through consistency, through the quiet demonstration that you cannot be shaken. And when she sees this, she is forced to recalibrate everything she believed about influence, control, and attachment. She realizes that the man she thought she could affect has already moved beyond her reach. Not with anger, not with confrontation, but with the unwavering power of calm. The ultimate truth here is simple yet profound. Your life, your choices, and your energy are your greatest assets. Every time you choose peace over reaction, clarity over chaos, strength over validation, you assert a power that is undeniable. It does not require confrontation to exist. It does not need acknowledgement to be effective. It is self-contained, unstoppable, and visible to anyone with eyes to see. So, cultivate your peace, protect it, let it define your actions and guide your life. Because when she sees it, when the world sees it, you are not just moving on. You are demonstrating a power that no one can challenge, a strength that no one can diminish, and a freedom that is utterly unshakable. Your peace is not passive. It is the most powerful force you possess, and it will speak louder than any argument, any drama, and any attempt to control you ever could. There is a truth that almost no one dares to say out loud. The greatest revenge is not confrontation, not anger, not proving someone wrong. The greatest revenge is peace. Real, unshakable, untouchable peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing your worth, honoring your soul, and refusing to let anyone else dictate your energy or your emotions. When a woman sees you living this way, completely free from the need for her validation, entirely beyond the reach of her influence, she feels something that words cannot capture. She feels the quiet, undeniable force of a life reclaimed, and there is no argument, no manipulation, no attempt to control that can undo it. That is the ultimate power, and it is far more shocking than any reaction she could provoke. Most people misunderstand revenge. They equate it with retaliation, with causing someone pain in the way they believe they were hurt. But true revenge is invisible. It is not an event. It is a state of being. It is the calm that radiates from a person who refuses to be shaken by past wounds. It is the confidence of someone who has walked through betrayal, disappointment, or loss and emerged whole, stronger, and unshakable. She may have expected chaos, she may have hoped for a reaction, but instead, she encounters the most powerful statement a man can make: serenity, composure, and the undeniable reality that her presence, or absence, does not define him. Psychologically, this is devastating because it undermines control. People, particularly those who once sought to hold influence over you, rely on your reactions to maintain a sense of power. They thrive on chaos, on emotional volatility, on drama. But when you operate outside that system, when you cultivate peace that cannot be provoked, you dismantle the very foundation of their assumptions. She may feel regret, confusion, even longing, but none of it can reach you because your life is no longer tethered to her expectations. That is the invisible yet unstoppable force of true revenge. Philosophically, the concept is profound. Life teaches us, often painfully, that we cannot control others. We cannot force them to see our worth, to honor us, or to act in ways we desire. But we can control ourselves. We can control our reactions, our emotions, and the direction of our lives. Choosing peace is the highest exercise of this control. It is the conscious decision to step out of chaos and into clarity. It is the declaration that your energy is sacred, your growth is non-negotiable, and your life is yours to lead, not hers to influence. In that choice, there is a quiet, almost poetic justice that no confrontation could ever replicate. Her experience of witnessing this peace is complex. She may feel awe, realizing that the man she underestimated is untouchable in his calm. She may feel regret, seeing what she cannot reclaim. She may even feel fear, confronting the reality that your life is moving forward without her interference, without her control, and without her validation. And all of these feelings, all of this internal upheaval, exist while you remain serene, composed, and entirely focused on your own growth and happiness. That is the paradox of peace. As revenge, it affects others profoundly without ever costing you your energy. There is also an undeniable beauty in this approach. Peace does not require manipulation, it does not demand confrontation, and it does not create enemies. Instead, it transforms the situation entirely. By refusing to react, by refusing to chase, by refusing to validate someone who once held you back, you create a life that speaks louder than any words. You demonstrate that happiness cannot be taken, respect cannot be forced, and love for oneself cannot be undermined. She sees you thriving, and that vision alone is more powerful than any confrontation she could have imagined. This is why moving on peacefully is not passive. It is active, intentional, and transformational. It is a practice of self-mastery, a declaration of independence, and the ultimate form of influence. It shifts the dynamic completely. You no longer operate under her expectations, you no longer respond to her provocations, and you no longer seek her approval. Your life becomes a testament to strength, clarity, and unshakable resolve. And when she witnesses it, she sees the consequences of underestimating you, not because you sought to punish her, but because your peace is unstoppable, undeniable, and entirely self-contained. So remember this: revenge is not in the words you say, the arguments you win, or the pain you cause. Revenge is in the calm that radiates from your life, in the joy that grows from your freedom, and in the power that emerges when you choose yourself over chaos. Move forward peacefully, cultivate your strength, protect your energy, and embrace the life you are building. Because when you do, you demonstrate something unforgettable, that the ultimate victory is not in fighting someone else, but in mastering yourself. Peace is your power, and power, lived fully, is the most profound statement anyone can witness.